any longer again. So
Yeah, I don't
that's
want to
kind of what was my
speculate
understanding.
too much.
Yeah,
Uh,
I heard it through the grapevine, so I don't know. I just heard who was it? So I can't remember. Somebody told me somewhere along the line. Might have been in Clubhouse. I join Clubhouse every once in a while and join Andrew's lives and stuff like that. I did hear a recent Tom Rabbit video because somebody had posted it somewhere about
I'm gonna
albedo.
I'm gonna try to mute you real quick. Okay, are you muted? Yep, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself, Matt, or do I have to unmute you?
I can unmute myself. I have a little option here where I can do it.
Okay, how do I remove somebody from the stream if we get a spammer in here? You guys have to educate me on this
Um,
process.
let's see. You click on them and say disconnect, and it disconnects. So you
You,
could try.
you
You
should
could
you should just be
click
able
on
to
my
tap
name
on
or
the
something.
person, and on the top right there should be a button that says disconnect.
I don't see a disconnect
I
on
think mine's
people.
on
It's
the
really
bottom
weird.
right.
You can
Like,
also look at the bottom left of your screen at the guest button. If you hit that, it should tell you not who's just in the room, but also who's on your panel. And then
ah,
there's a little X on the right
by the
of the
person.
names. Yeah, so that's also there are two ways. That's one of the ways.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to make sure I don't get any spammers up here, but I'm not a big fan of the mute button. I think that for the most part, people can have adult conversations.
You get a lot of unruly atheists here on TikTok, so you do have to be aware of that.
Eh, I could probably be an unruly Christian. So you and our friend over there, Atheist Preach, were going to debate, I take it.
Yeah,
If
I
he
had
wants
officially
to,
challenged atheistic preacher to a debate. Yeah, on
Uh,
is the Bible misogynistic?
so an
sure.
I
atheist
would take the
preacher,
position it is not misogynistic.
if you're familiar with StreamYard, Atheist Preacher, I actually have two YouTube channels that I can stream you and Matt debating to. 34,000 subscriber channel and a 14,000.
Yeah, I myself
This
don't
is the
have
big boys.
StreamYard, but if you want to stream it, you can stream it to wherever. If Matt wants it streamed somewhere specifically, that's okay with me.
Alrighty. I see there's been 8 shares of this so far, so I appreciate whoever's been sharing it. Thank you for that.
Dang, I don't get anybody really.
Are
Well,
you
I
I never
looking are you
get
looking
anybody
for
share my lives. I never get any
opposition
money, no
to
nothing.
this?
yeah, we can have opposition, but
No, but
I,
did
s-
you
I,
are you
s-
looking for opposition or not? I mean, which one?
yeah, yeah, opposition is fine. So I,
Absolutely.
I added a live goal here for one new subscriber to my channel. I got to get another 400 subscribers to hit 10K, and then supposedly TikTok does something else for me.
Well,
But
I prefer to do opposition. So where do you stand? Is the Bible misogynistic? I will ask you.
I don't think it is. I think that it's a very loving book that talks about structuring a relationship between a man and a woman. And it talks about like the man laying down his life for his wife and treating her uh, body and her the way he would want to be treated. And so if you're smacking your wife, you're basically saying you would prefer your spouse to hit you. So that's just counterproductive to that. So I don't think the Bible's misogynistic, but you can go and give an argument, and Matt can respond or I can respond. Either way,
Most of the I think most of the things you've been pointing to about how to treat one's wife. I mean, there's different parts of the text that like address how to treat a wife, and there's different parts of the text on how to treat um, your female slaves or the women that you take in war, like ways to take care of her health and shave her head, like and treat her well. All will be good. And I believe there's a part that says, you know, if you make a woman cry, then life will not be good for you. I
Were you done or just breaking up? I didn't want to cut you
She
off.
she possibly got a phone call
She,
or something. Sometimes if
she may have gotten a phone call.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not like Clubhouse. You'll see a little emblem icon where you get a phone call. Here, it's just like their screen just goes blank and this coffee cup pops up. So she probably got a phone call.
I,
And
I,
then
I will
Discord.
want to say, let's take this moment real quick, Matt. If we're going to do this debate, we're only focusing on the Bible, right? You were talking about some kind of modern view of feminism. We're not adding that stuff, right? We're just talking about the Bible.
oh, I'm okay. I'm back, and I would like to say that I very much would love to stay there. Yes, instead of talking about a modern interpretation. Um,
Oh no, no, I'm sorry. Matt, no degree required, has challenged me to
I
a
know you weren't
debate
talking to
on
me
this
about. Yeah,
topic,
okay,
and
okay.
I just
I'll
wanted to
step back.
clarify with him real quick that this was just what the Bible says, and
Well,
not some modern
the
feminism view that he
reason
was talking
why
about before. Correct?
The reason why I think that the reason why I was thinking it would be important to discuss what's going on now is because we have this exciting new data coming out based off of dating apps and stuff like that that kind of reveal the behavior of men and women and how they actually naturally behave, and this shares some insight on what was going on in the Bible. That's why I was thinking that it's very important to see this because we really have not ever seen this is modern stuff we've never seen before, and that's why I think it is important to discuss what these dating apps are telling us and stuff.
Yeah, but that has nothing to
So
do
I
with
wouldn't
what the
want to
Bible says on how to
exclude
treat
that.
women. So I would not want that to be part of our debate if we're talking about what the Bible says about men and women.
Well, think of it like this. It'd be something like this. Okay, if you were to say, if you were holding to something like uh, in medicine, and you were to say, okay, men are more likely to suffer from this kind of disease because of X, Y, Z, or this factor or something, you wouldn't think that is sexist or misogynistic or whatever. Or if you say a woman's more likely be prone to this disease, you're not going to say, well, that's misogynistic. And I'm saying this is how I would look at those passages in the Bible. The Bible is not trying to send a message that is misogynistic. It's just dealing with the natural behaviors of men and women and how they just act in the real world. It's just brutally honest, you could say.
Are you comparing Bible passages to medical data?
No,
Yeah,
well,
this
yeah, in a
logic makes
way,
no sense, man.
I'm saying that the Bible is just laying it out. Hey, this is how it is. This is how women act. This is how men act. And we have exciting new data from dating apps and other things that kind of point to this and show this to be the case. And that's why I think it's very important because when you see this stuff, that's often what happens is the Bible gets proved to be wiser and wiser
What data
the
are you
more our
pointing at?
understanding of
What data are you
science.
pointing at exactly?
Can I maybe say a few
Sure,
things?
sure.
So,
I think she
inheritance and
got a phone
lineage
call.
in the Bible, inheritance and lineage always go through men. God's voice God's voice never speaks through women. Women are economic property sold as bride price or taken as slaves. I don't see how any of this can be taken as anything other than misogynistic.
You would agree that God does speak through
Well,
some women in the Bible, though, right?
Through. I did not say through. I said to. God does not speak
like the
through.
book of Esther, obviously. God's not even mentioned in the whole book of Esther. It's all about Esther, pretty much a woman
Esther
saving her people.
survives through pleasing a king. So I don't see how
Well,
that
my point is here
is
that she is
she
kind of the savior, or she's kind of like a savior in a sense. I don't want to say savior like Jesus, but kind of the hero of the story that God uses. But God's not even mentioned in this whole book. We just assume God's working in the background. But
so
this is the irony is this is the only book in the Bible in which God's not mentioned, and it's all about a woman.
I would say that this is a story about a young girl who is victimized by a man who is then used by other men in political ploys to get things done. This isn't about a woman being the hero of the story. This is literally just showing how everyone used this poor girl.
Well, what about Deborah?
yeah, I think that's
Often
exactly
atheists will
what I
say,
was saying. That yeah.
What about Deborah? You're
Hmm?
one
I
Yes,
mean, here
please.
you
you're
have
one
What about
random
Deborah?
yeah
atheists
you're
will
one
Oh my
random
gosh,
thing.
atheists
what
will
about
say,
Deborah?
well, let me. Atheists will say, "Oh, God couldn't defeat the iron chariots in the Bible," but in Judges chapter 4, God uses a woman judge who leads them, and then uses another woman, and the iron chariots are defeated in this chapter, and then this judge, this woman Deborah, encouraged them and led them to this, and then you have another woman running a peg through the head of the commander of these iron chariots while he's sleeping in a tent. So what I'm saying here
Yeah.
is these are things that women have been shown to be big heroes in some stories in the Bible.
No,
Deborah
So
no,
I'm
shows
saying
Matt.
I
up when
wouldn't say
there's
the
The
Bible
no
is
one
context.
else
misogynistic
And
The
in
then,
this and
there.
all of
and
that.
then
Deborah is
if
the
we,
exception.
wait,
and
wait,
then if
wait.
we can, one at a time, and then
Correct.
also I'd like to get Courtney in too here in a minute. Thank you, guys.
Sure. My real quick point about this is again the context of these stories matter. Deborah being a woman judge doesn't excuse all of the laws that we see where women are very clearly underneath men and that men make decisions for women. And what we do see, again, we can't say, oh, look at this other woman, she's the hero of the story for staking this guy. Because why was she the one to quote unquote win the war? Because it was a punishment to the man general of the army because he did not follow God's instructions fully. Therefore, Deborah said his punishment was that his victory is taken away and given to a woman. It was an insult. It was
Yes,
supposed to be
even thank
insulting
you.
that the woman got this kill. You
Yeah, I
can't
don't think
you can't
Even
it's
say that
as
this
a
is a
exactly.
prophetess and
beautiful
judge,
story of
her
women.
power
It's kind of
is
self-explanatory
comes
that
through
women.
men.
It's kind of self-explanatory that women are just not going to be as physically strong as men. I know in 2025 people like really struggle to understand that there are distinct differences between women and men, but knowing that men are just far more capable of warfare, and the fact that a woman, Deborah in this case, would be the reason that they win, is it's not an insult to women. It'd be an insult to the man that he was incapable. So it actually uplifts women. I'm not sure why
That's
people
why I
would
said
refer
it was an
to it.
insult
And
to the man.
defeating
It
the
was to
iron
insult
chariots of
him
all
by
things.
giving
The
the
iron
victory
chariots
to
were
a
defeated.
woman.
That's okay, because that would be, you're not understanding. Okay, let me explain it this way. It would be an insult to a woman if a man had to physically make himself lactate because a woman like refused to feed her baby, right? The point is she wouldn't be doing her job. Let's just say there's no breast milk, but like she's not doing her job that she's supposed to do. Ergo, a man had to do it for her. That doesn't mean that the man is less than. It just means that the job wasn't
I
done and
didn't
someone
say
else
that.
had to come and do it. Well, that's kind of what
You're
you're
Well
saying.
responding to something I
said,
didn't
Courtney. Well
say.
said.
How is it well said if she's not responding to the point? The point is that
Because she's simply saying
the
here,
point is that it's
here you
misogynistic because
have
it was
a
insulting to the man that the
coming
victory
to do
went
a
to a
man's
woman
job,
because it
like a
was a
man maybe has to do a
punishment.
woman's job. And so
One at a time, please. Thank you.
she's just saying that God used a woman to do a man's job here, essentially. And then sometimes, it would be insulting to a woman. I know my wife would sort of insulted if I was the one who would, fed the kids, did all of this and that. In fact, when I got laid off several years ago and stayed home with the kids, she did not really like that at all. But then when she got laid off later and she was taking care of the kids for a longer period of time, she was perfectly content with that. So what I'm saying here is what Courtney's saying here makes sense. God used a woman to do a man's job here and defeat the iron chariots, led him to encourage a man to go out
Still,
and
no, no,
have
no.
a set
She
of
still
balls, you
had
could say,
Brock
and
send the
defeat the iron
troops.
chariots. What's that?
She was the prophetess. She was the prophetess, but the violence was still enacted by the men.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
Like,
she
that's
basically
even worse
told
for
him, she
y'all's
essentially
case.
told him to grow a set of balls and go do this because God told you to. Essentially what she said.
it,
Be a man. Be what God told you to be and go defeat these iron chariots. Y'all been fiddle farting around with them for all this time. You're scared of these chariots. Go do it. And, they had a great victory. I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, Courtney. I think it even used the term pretty much they just routed them and pretty much just gave them a good old spanking. And they had these iron chariots that they were scared of. But the point is here, it took a woman to
She had more
motivate
bravery.
him
She had
to go out and
more.
do this.
Yeah, she had
Yeah,
more bravery, more
exactly.
faith, more everything. The story is intended to show you that a woman was more capable than a man to do the man's job. That is not, it doesn't negate a woman. In
That's not
fact,
what it does, though.
that's what it does. Yes,
We
it
see the
only
men are
doesn't.
perfectly
That's
capable of doing
how
the
I,
job.
that's how
They're
I
Well,
read
go
it.
ahead
more.
and
Yeah,
They're
if you
doing the
guys
I
could
violence.
read it the
hold
way
on,
Courtney reads it.
pause, please. If you could let Courtney finish and then go right after she's done. Thank you.
It uplifts the woman because it wasn't her duty to do it. She didn't have to do it. She did it. She had more faith, she had more ability, more mental fortitude, etc. All the things that seemingly would go to the man, right? Attribute men their fortitude, etc. to test fortitude, if we're going to say it in modern terms.
I
But
would say
she had
it was her
everything.
job.
Okay, can I please
Yeah,
finish?
yeah.
And so the point is they didn't do what they were supposed to do. She had the faith to do it. And that's uplifting to women. I'm not sure. Does that mean every woman is a Deborah? Certainly not. Not every man is a David. Not every man is a Job. Not every man is a Christ. I don't know why people cherry pick passages because not all women want to be Deborahs. Some women want to be barefoot in the kitchen with 3 kids in tow and one on the breast. It's just what some women desire. Others want to be more Deborah-like. The Bible does not negate them.
No one is saying that that's a problem. No one
I
is
don't disagree
arguing
with you
that.
either.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you either.
Again, you're addressing things that no one has said.
I'd
Um,
say that
the
Deborah was in a
I'm sorry, did you say it
role
was
of a.
misogynistic? I'm sorry, I want to make sure I'm understanding you right.
I'm
Did
saying the
you say
Bible.
that it was misogynistic?
Yes, I'm saying the
I'm sorry,
Bible
go
is
ahead.
misogynistic, and I said my point with this story was not about Deborah. The point is that this man was to lead this army, and as a punishment to this man, his victory was taken from him and given to this other woman, Jerel, who spiked the general.
Mhm.
That it says nothing about her faith. It says nothing about her having the strength to do what a man could not, because the men were doing the task. They were fighting. They were
Yeah, it's
doing the
shame.
battle.
It's a shame.
They were
It's
doing the
shaming
violence.
them to give
It
it to a woman. It's an
yeah,
exception.
yeah, it was shaming the male general by giving his victory, the killing blow, to a woman, and that is the
Okay,
point.
I got you. And as I stated specifically, that which it's not a problem when you shame one gender that another gender had to do their job. Okay, that's the difference between us. Because if my husband, because I refused, let's just say I physically refused, there's no way to feed my baby other than breastfeed my child. Something that is just innate to me what I should do, and I physically refused to do it for whatever reason, and my husband had to swoop in and do it,
Oh,
then
that's
shame be to me for that, right? So I don't think that that somehow negates women or whatever you're trying to say it's misogynistic. I don't think it does. Simply because some other person whom it's not their job to stake a man through the forehead, and yet they do it because they have the chutzpah to do it, then I'm not really sure what the problem is.
Are you saying
I'm
it's a
not sure
matter
of
of
it.
personality, what role a woman should
Yes.
choose?
Yeah, of course. Of course, it's a matter of person. Not every woman could do that. Like me, I could do that. I'm a different type of woman, though, right? Like my daughter, I don't know. My daughter's pretty strong. I mean, she's only 7,
Okay,
but she's very dainty. She's very, I'm scared of things. Whereas different women, so I don't think it's misogynistic because
does the Bible give prescribed roles for women and men?
based on what, right? Women
Well,
stay
does
at
it?
home.
Does it?
Why?
Does it?
Yeah,
Does the Bible give
let's talk about,
prescribed roles for women and men?
based on what? Based on natural cycles. I'll explain. Men wake up with testosterone. Testosterone fuels their day, right? Women don't. Women go through 30-day cycles. Men go through 24-hour regenerative cycles. The man that you lay down with is going to be regenerated first thing in the morning. That means if he doesn't jump up and go into work, his testosterone is going to decline throughout the day. So these men are geared towards conquering the world,
Oh, do you think
building
that makes them
roads.
effective generals
I
to
do
have?
think it makes them
Oh,
far more effective, because
I think that
I'm
limits a certain amount of foresight, really.
not necessarily testosterone doesn't negate foresight. It
Well,
can,
it limits
but
it if
that's why
it's a
you should have.
24-hour cycle. I'm just saying, I mean, as a
What do
general,
you?
as a
I'm
leader,
sorry. What are you
okay.
saying?
Well, I'm sort of saying, as a follower and as a soldier, a
Hmm.
24-hour testosterone cycle would be helpful. As a general and as a leader, I think it would be maybe more of a hindrance.
Why would you say that it would be a hindrance to have testosterone? Women also have testosterone, by the way.
Yeah,
Like a
yeah,
woman's
I know
testosterone
women
starts to
also have
increase after her
testosterone.
cycle.
No, but we were talking about the overriding hormone cycle being 24 hours versus 28 days.
And the reason why, what I'm saying, you're asking me, are there roles? There absolutely
Are
are
there
roles,
prescribed
and they
roles? Yes.
yes, and they are innate to the differences between man and woman. Women
You
bear
did
children.
also
I'm,
say that women should like have their roles based on their personalities. So,
I didn't say
which
women should have the roles based on personalities. Like, for
okay, I'm sorry,
example,
I thought you
my
said that.
no, I'm saying not every woman is a Yael, not every woman is a Deborah, not every woman is a Mary. My point is every woman has the capability of bearing children unless there's something wrong, like medically, right? So when she bears children, she cannot go up to the mountain. What is the mountain for? The mountain is all men have to go up to the mountain to worship the Lord. She cannot. Imagine 5 kids in tow. One, she needs to change their diaper. 3 that are fighting as they're going up to the mountain. She's on her cycle after giving birth, like still bleeding from giving birth. And she's trying to
Why would
drag all
she be
these
doing this
snotty-nosed kids. Hold on,
alone?
I'm still talking.
Okay.
Hold on. She's trying to drag all these kids up to the mountain to, quote, worship the Lord when her husband could do that. He doesn't have any of those problems, right? He's not bleeding after bearing a child. He doesn't need to stay home. His womb isn't healing.
So,
He's not lactating. All of these things make her naturally geared towards keeping of a home, of
I
which
guess
she
I
could do at
have
her
the
leisure.
question, why should it be the one male head of household to help lead us up the mountain to worship the Lord instead of the rest of the women of the household helping the grandmothers, the aunts, the sisters, all helping to change the diapers and lead the children up the mountain? Why should it be the
Okay,
man
so
leading all
we
of
should
us?
leave our children in the hands of even capable people to go up to the mountain when our husbands are capable of it and they're already out there working. So I'm going to leave my
Wait,
newborn. I'm going to leave my newborn with
okay,
my
okay,
mother or
okay.
my grandmother, who just maybe
No, no,
happens
no,
to
no,
live
no.
with me, even though that's not always the case.
I'm sorry.
And then I'm going to,
I know I don't
okay,
understand. Is going up the mountain to worship the Lord only, is that not for women and children at
no,
all?
I'm designating the differences between women and men in the Bible and their roles. You were speaking about roles, right? Head of household doesn't mean he triumphs over his wife.
I
Doesn't
didn't say
mean
that.
he steps. I'm so sorry. I'm not following the conversation then, man, because it seems very much like every time I try and explain the differences between the men, you guys say, that's not what I said. Okay, here's what I'm gathering. Maybe I'm really bad at reading the room, but I don't think I am. Y'all think the Bible is misogynistic against women. I'm explaining the reasons why that's not the case. Am I wrong? Did I read the room wrong?
No, you're definitely correct on the topic. I think that the issues. Okay, I think that we can just address the topic 100% more clear than we have been. I think that the best reason to say that the Bible is misogynistic is because it clearly shows that men are above women. From the very beginning of in Genesis, we see that man is placed over women, women under men, all the way to the New Testament, where it says that women were made for the man. Um, we see multiple laws given by God throughout the Bible, that show like things like marriage that is decided for women by men. Women don't have consent, or their consent doesn't matter in many situations, and those can be seen all throughout the Old Testament and in the New Testament. So,
Okay, can you
given
show me
given
an
all of these things, then how
mhm.
can we say that the Bible is not misogynistic?
Okay, can you show me an example that is intended to be a good example of a woman having no consent of marriage?
Sure. In Deuteronomy chapter 21, it talks about how. Um,
Notice I said a good example, not one where a man goes and he seduces a woman and takes her unto himself, and the two become caught, and now he has to keep
and
her as a
I'm
wife
sorry that
forever.
that's not what I was
One,
saying. That wasn't the reference I was saying. So maybe
Okay,
listen before you jump.
not the, and definitely not the R word one, right? Again, a good example, not
So
one of the lows in the
so
Hebrew Bible.
so. Well, this is allowed by God and His law. So unless you're saying that God
Okay, wait,
is
wait, wait.
bad,
I said a
so
good example, not
can I
one
give my
where God
example or
says
not?
not
Can I
to
give
do.
my
Sure,
example or
go
not?
ahead.
Thank you.
But I don't want to have to
So
re-say
when
that. I want
God
it to be
allows His
a good
people
example.
to take captives of war and make them their wives, that shows their consent does not is not needed for something like marriage,
Do
because
me a
they are
favor
allowed
and
to just
display
take
why
them.
they would. Okay, wonderful. Do me a favor and display how it is that it's the case that automatically they would not want that. Are you familiar with the men that went overseas to Vietnam and came literally had Viet women in
Hmm.
Vietnam that they were had a quote relationship with and either brought them back to America inevitably or created children with them? Are you aware of that? And that was consensual. It still happens in modern day life.
Cool, and that addresses what I said about the Bible. How?
I'm asking you, can you display that these women were kicking and screaming and were fighting against their will, as you so tried
Because they
eloquently
were
to put it?
captives of war, and captives of war cannot consent.
Okay, do me a favor and display how that is the case.
I'm sorry, you think captives of war can consent?
Yeah,
What
I
is a
think
captive?
captives of
What
war.
is a
Yeah,
captive?
okay, correct. Yeah, if you want to use the word captives, that's fine, fine for me. Means that loot, booty, etc. So with that being stated,
Property.
you do sure. Let's go with that. I'm okay with that because I'm going to give a nuanced view. I'm going to explain it. There's a semantic range for every word. So with that being stated, here are the options. The Israelites gave options. Okay, they would say, okay, you are free to stay here all by yourself in the land that we just annihilated because that's war, right? And if I don't like war, well, take that up with like humanity because like humans are going to fight. It just is what it is. Let me come knocking on your door and try and take you out of your home. And I guarantee you, liberals will even fight for what they love, right? Okay. So, just annihilated everything. We told you we were going to war. We gave you a warning, just like Israel still does today, by the way. And then says, hey, we just destroyed your whole city. Okay, you can stay here, right? You can stay here and try and fend for yourself. Now, women, now you have children to take care of, and you also must now go work in the field. So you're a single, bad, you know what woman, and now you got to work in the fields. Or
is it a
you could come back with us. Which do you think most women would choose?
I'm sorry. This shows that they gave their enthusiastic consent. How?
My okay, so you can
How does this
stay.
address what I
You
said?
can stay. I just said you know the women could stay, right? They
What?
could
Yeah.
stay and
Show me a
unalive.
single verse that says that.
No, sir, do you understand that the women had the option of staying? Let me give you a historical example. Did you know
No,
at the
I
Second
don't.
Temple?
That's why I asked for the verse.
Okay, so when Israel goes to war, did you know that they're required to notify? Yes or no?
I know that in Deuteronomy 20, that if they make war against someone, they have to say basically, "Be our slaves, or we will just take you."
No, it's not, or we will just take you. It's,
Yes.
hey, we are coming. No, it is a notification of war. Why do you think Israel,
Shall I read it? Because I
uh,
can provide scripture for what I said.
they
Yeah, you
become,
gotta read it to
they
her
become,
because she's making a bunch of stupid ass excuses.
I'm not making it up. First of all, I'm a messianic. I'm actually Torah
Well, first
observant.
of all,
Yeah, I
I'm giving
can't.
I'm just,
That's
Okay,
scripture.
really
I'm
just
not,
I'm
uh,
giving
just
scripture
a
for my
quick,
points,
just a
and I
quick
have yet to
pause,
hear yours.
just a quick moderation pause.
okay.
Let's try to be constructive. Just saying somebody made a stupid A point is just not acceptable. So please be constructive. Thank you.
Sure.
sure.
So again, where is the verse that says that the women were given the option to stay?
The verse does not say, and the women were given the option to stay.
Okay, so you're
The
making it up.
point is, no, I'm not making it up. In the same capacity, if you want to say that I'm making it up, then I'll say that you're making it up, that they forced them to, that they R word them and all of that, for which the text does not say either. Do you see how
The
you read
context
into,
definitely shows it, and I can actually
oh,
show the
see what
scripture
happens? You can use
that gives
context,
that.
but I can't?
Yes.
Wait, you
Oh,
can use
wait.
context, but I'm not allowed?
What context supports your point when all we see is that the context shows that Israel says, "Hey, we're making war with you. Give up and
Yeah,
be our
why would
slaves.
Israel,
Give
what
up and be our
nation would do
slaves,
that? Ask yourself.
or give up and be our slaves, or we will go ahead and unalive all the men that you have and just take everyone else anyway."
Okay, what nation? Do you think that if you were fixing to take
So you're
over
not going
a
to answer my
nation,
question?
that is, I'm in the middle of doing that, right? So, like, be patient. So, do you think that it makes any sense to be in a war and say, hey, we're fixing to come and get you? Why do you think that Israel's stated to do that? In light of the fact that, right? Again, Israel's so bad, God bad, me good, right? Continue to tell me how it is that that's not an option for people to flee, to leave, etc. Israel is not even allowed
Because
to cut
the
down
options aren't
fruit
fleeing.
trees in war.
The options aren't flee. The options are be our slaves, or we're just going to unalive you and take you anyway.
Why is Israel required to notify?
Why? Go ahead, tell me why.
Are you being serious that you don't know why, or are you just being
I
smart?
don't know what you think the answer is, so that's why I'm
Okay, tell me.
asking
I'm
you.
not asking what my answer is. I'm asking you what you think the answer is.
I don't know what you're asking or what you're wanting for, so please, why
Or
is Israel
answer.
supposed
And
to
if
do
you
it?
don't know, say I don't know.
I don't have an answer for you, so please tell us.
Israel is required to notify, one, because the Torah says so, right? This gives them options. They can either say, hey, we don't want to make war with you, right? Hey, please don't come and annihilate our nation, right? We,
Sure.
we, we want to make peace. And in that
Sure. And
making
how do
peace,
they do that?
they don't come in and, oh, wait a minute. So now
How do they
sure,
make
a
peace?
second ago you did, hold on. Sure, many ways, but sure, a second ago you were unaware of the reason why Israel is required to make quote peace, or to make like a declaration that they're going to go to war. Like
Nothing you've
I'm
said
not
so
understanding.
far has gone against what I have said.
Okay, saying that nothing you've said so far, it's like if you say it
You've
three,
literally
four,
just
five
repeated
times,
what
maybe
I've
you'll
said.
believe
You
it.
haven't given a
I'm going to
reasoning why.
ask you to. Okay, then why does Israel give the enemy a heads up that they're coming? That is the dumbest way to go to war. Theoretically, right? You wouldn't want to notify somebody, I'm coming to attack you. But yet Israel does. They're commanded to. Why is that, atheist preacher?
I'm waiting for you to tell us.
I already did. And then you said, well, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then you wanted to pretend like you
You said to
understood.
give them
So do
options.
you know?
You said to give them
Yes,
options, correct? Okay.
correct. So do you
So
disagree with that?
when did I say that they were not presented options?
You necessitated that they weren't permitted
No,
options in the
I
fact that,
listed what
I'm
the
sorry, I'm still
options
talking.
were.
You necessitated that they weren't given options in that the women could leave or flee or go somewhere else.
I I I accepted that they were given options. I said fleeing was not one of the options. Let me read it to you. So it says in Deuteronomy 20, starting in verse 10, when you draw near to a town to fight it, offer a terms of peace. And then if it accepts your terms of peace and surrenders to you, then all of it shall serve you at forced labor. If it does not accept your terms of peace, make war against it, and you shall besiege it, and the Lord your God gives it to you in your hand. You shall put all its males to the sword. However, you may, however, take as your plunder the women, the children, the livestock, and everything else in the town,
Mhm.
all its spoil. So we
Pause,
see that they are.
pause, pause, pause.
I'm almost done. I'm almost done. I promise. So
Okay.
we see that they are given two options: be our
Hmm.
slaves, surrender and be our slaves, or we will come and unalive all the men and just take everyone and everything else anyway. Those are
Okay,
the
notice,
options.
okay, read the last verse again, please.
You may, however, take as your plunder the women, the children, the livestock, and everything else in the town as its spoil.
What does may mean?
It means that you can do it.
Means that it's an option, right? That it's not mandated, right?
Sure, you don't have to take more slaves,
Yeah, no, sure, you don't have to take anyone as a wife. You don't have to
and
even
and
take the plunder.
and
So
so
it
that means
necessitates
that they
what? What is
were
that? What does
given
that
the
mean?
option to stay. Why? How?
Yes, yes.
Where are you getting that they were then
They
given the
can
option to stay
stay.
and rebuild
They
their
can
home?
stay in. No, they can stay. Well, if they took the men out, that's because those are the ones that are warring, right? Unless the liberals want to shove all the women to the front lines,
Okay.
it's
All right. I
typically
think I'm
men.
understanding. So everyone took, the men are off, the plunder is taken, and the women have the choice of, go and be their wives or slaves or stay there and die. That's not consent. That's
It's
definitely showing by context it's not consensual and clearly not caring about the women's consent. You have literally proven my point.
No, I've literally shown you that. Okay, so let me ask you a question. If you were set back in time and, well, I don't know about you, but like maybe your mom, your grandmother, etc., and they had just went through war, okay? They have options. They can unalive themselves, quite literally. And we see Jewish women having done that in history to avoid being defiled by other nations, right? In particular, the Romans, right? They literally, according to the Talmud, they literally leapt to their unalivement in the flames. Okay, so you do have that option if you have the chutzpah to do it, right? You have that option. You always have options. You may not like your options, but if you just went to war and you were gung ho for the war and now you lost when you had the option to at one point flee, because people did flee. I don't know why you think they didn't. People flee. Okay, fled. And then you have the option to make peace, but yet you would still be a vassal under the Israel, just like Israel was a vassal under Roman, right? You remember that? They were still able to do certain things, but not all things, right? They couldn't, the Sanhedrin didn't have the power to put people to unalivement according to Torah, etc. You remember? Okay. So why do you feel like if a woman chooses to go so that she doesn't starve to death or her children are unfed or something like that, then that is automatic, like forced R word?
Because she would rather not be in that situation. Just because someone shows both situations are bad, I guess I'd rather suffer through this one versus the other, does not mean that they are therefore saying, I consent to taking on this life or taking on this role. This is what I want.
Okay, then she can consent to stay and unalive by the heat, the scorching sun, and many other things.
And you think that that's a perfectly good and just system? That's a good way to go to
If
war?
you are going to war, uh, okay, let me put it in modern terms. Okay,
No, no, no. I don't want
no, no, no,
modern
yeah,
terms.
yeah,
I
no,
want God's
it
perfect
has to
terms.
be. No, 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 that's not what you don't get.
No,
I
we're
don't
talking about the
understand why it's
Bible and
impossible for
we're talking about
people.
the Bible and
letter,
God's rules. This has all been about the Bible. I don't
atheist
Yeah,
preacher,
understand.
if you could, atheist preacher, if you could let Courtney lay out her argument and then you can respond. Thank you very
I,
much, buddy.
I don't understand
But it's
what
not relevant to what we're talking about.
it is
Well,
relevant. It
she's
is
just
very
using an
relevant.
example, and I think that like a short example won't hurt anything in the conversation.
Okay.
But I appreciate it, atheist preacher. Thank you. Go ahead,
I
Courtney.
don't I don't understand why liberals or atheists think in idealistic rainbows and gumdrops and lollipops, because that's not the world you live in. And I can show you that you only think that about the Bible, like, oh, the bad things, that's bad. You think that's ideal? No, it's war rhetoric. Why on earth would you think that war is ideal? It's not ideal. It's a part of fallen humanity, right? Theoretically, if we could reverse this, we would. But the problem is humans suck. I'll give you an example. Me and a group of people, men, women, etc.,
Mhm.
we come to your house. We want your house. Okay? You have the option of staying maybe somewhere else, and you're in a surrounded desert area. There's really nowhere else you can go. Or you can stay under us. But hey, since we just took over your possessions because we told you via war we were going to, we know that you have the capability of maybe rising back up and maybe trying to stamp us back out. So the option would be that you either stay under us, we feed you, we clothe you, right? Okay. Or we just send you out into the wilderness and maybe a ravenous wolf will get you or something like that. Of the options, you yourself know that you would choose to be under those whom just made you a vassal. You know that you would choose that. Now, if your question is, why
Actually,
does
no, I
God
don't
allow
know
war?
that, and you can't
You
make that
just said
decision
that
for me.
5 seconds before I started talking. You said, I guess it would be better.
No, that's
Which
not what
one
I
is it?
said.
Okay, let the replays, James, when we're
Yeah, no,
done,
no, no.
if you can
Let's do the
send me the.
replays, and you'll see that that's not what I said.
Yes, it was.
Sure.
Yes, it
Would you
was.
like the
Yeah,
clarification for what I
how
said?
do I, just a quick question about how TikTok works. How
Sure.
do I save the replay or
So
share it for
it
people who
does it
want it?
automatically for you, which is actually pretty cool. So when the live ends, you're going to be able to go to your profile page and where the gear is for the settings. You go to the live studio, and it'll you'll see a tab that says live recordings or replays. You click that, and then it'll show you the all the lives you've done in the past 30 days. It only keeps it for 30 days, and then you can download it from TikTok to your device, or you can like take clips from it if you want.
Right.
Okay. And Courtney, you requested some clips, is what you were saying?
Yeah, I mean, because he's going to say a second before you cut him off and said, hey, why don't you let her get out what it was that she was going to say? He had said, well, yeah, under those circumstances, I guess it would be better, i.e., that you are taken with your captors, right? As opposed to, unaliving by no food. Now all the men are gone, and now all the women have
Hmm.
children to feed, and now all of a sudden they have to figure out like how to go out and work in the fields for which women weren't really doing nor trained to do. It's just like when World War I was happening and literally all the able-bodied men went away to war. All of the women had to enter into the workforce, and it was literal chaotic HE double hockey sticks because they weren't trained to do it. They also had children at home. Like, I cannot believe that people are so out of touch with reality that they don't understand. The one thing that you're arguing here is war is bad. Okay, fine. I agree with you. But that's a human condition. And I'm trying to display to you that even you would fight for what it is that you believe. Because if I came knocking on your door and said, hey, give me your house, give me everything, you would say no, kick rocks, lady. And if I fought you for it, you would fight back.
Okay, I didn't say anything about war or whether it was good or bad, so that wasn't my point. I don't know what she's addressing. She's not addressing
Oh my
anything that I've
gosh,
said.
dude, you keep doing.
So she thinks that I said something about, wanting to go with my captors instead of not. I said no such thing. What I said is just because someone is like, these are my two options, they're both bad. I guess I'd rather suffer through one than the other. That doesn't mean that that person actually wants to go through that. That doesn't mean
So
that they
did
are
you say
consenting to
that?
do that. Yes, that is
Wait,
exactly
did you
what
say?
I said. I never
Okay,
said
and
that
so
I
you
would
agree.
choose to go with my captors.
Okay, so
When
did
I
you?
said just because someone is choosing between two shitty situations, that I did not use war or slavery or death. I did not use any specific uh, examples.
No, of course, because
So
we're talking about this example. You don't have
okay,
to
I'm
say war
okay,
or slavery.
and I'm clarifying what I said
Okay.
because you just assumed that I was talking about these specific examples. I was not. So please let me clarify what I
But
said before you try to just assume what I said.
but weren't
Now,
we
my
talking about
point
this though? Can you see why I'm assuming that's what we're
My,
just
my my point was not about war, whether it was right or wrong. The point about of what I was bringing up was that again, things were being decided for women. A man decided he liked what he saw and took this woman to be his wife. A man chose her. And a man, if he decides that he's displeased with her, can kick her out after he's done using her. This has nothing to do with the woman's consent, as she is a captive of war, and captives cannot give consent.
Wait, where, what part are you reading now? Because now you're combining. Which verse are you reading that after he's
Yes,
done with
yes,
her, he can,
yes. What we're talking about the rules given in war and how it's related to misogyny in the Bible.
okay,
We see
where
these
are you,
passages.
where?
I'm answering you, please.
Verse.
So I let me answer, please. So we see these
Okay.
passages in are addressed in Deuteronomy 20 verses 10 through 14, and in Deuteronomy 21 15 through 17. So we see that the woman, or that when God gives his people rules of warfare, when they go to a town and make war with it, if it's not one of the people, if it's not one of the groups of people on God's hit list, they offer two options: be our slaves, or we unalive all the men and take you anyway. And then once they overtake a place, we get to see in Deuteronomy 21 that once they have captives, that um, I'm sorry, Deuteronomy 21, starting in verse 10, that when they're in war, that when they take over a place, if they see among the captives a beautiful woman they desire to marry, they can take her. And then they literally strip her of her identity and her culture
No, they
by,
don't strip her of her identity. The
please
bringing her to
please
her
let me
home,
finish.
I'm sorry, go
Please.
ahead, but that's, you're
Thank you.
wrong.
Okay, great. You can explain it once I'm done. So they strip her of her identity and her culture by shaving her head and changing and taking away her clothes that she was captured and cutting her nails. And even Bible Hub and other commentaries like that will agree that this is to symbolize her change of identity from her heathen culture to her new culture as a wife of an Israelite. And then she is given 30 days to mourn her mother and father. And according to rabbis from the Talmud and the Tangerine of Jonathan, this 30 days is also given to ensure she isn't pregnant with another man's child. And then you can go in and make her your wife. And then if you are not satisfied with her, you can just kick her out. It doesn't say anything about having to provide for her or returning her home or anything of the sort. So we see God gave the rules of warfare, and then we see how women can be treated after. Literally, a man could say, I like that one, take her, use her, kick her out after. And this is allowed by God in his quote unquote perfect law in the Bible, which is one of the many reasons why I think the Bible is misogynistic. That has been my point, not about whether war is good or bad.
Okay, again, back to it doesn't say strip her of her identity. You added those words in. That's a mourning procedure. Are you aware of that?
Did you not hear my explanation for that?
Did you hear did you hear my question?
Yes. And did you not hear what I said about that?
Yeah, did you hear my question?
Yes, and I agreed with you. And I also explained the cultural and textual reasons why they also did that as well.
Yeah, so a mourning procedure for a woman who is taken to be
My,
R word, because ultimately it's what you're saying. Against her will, ultimately that's
oh,
R.
absolutely.
Okay, so do me a favor and show me people who R word you and wait 30 days to R word you while, excuse me, while they, give you the time in the ancient culture, you trim your hair, your nails, all of that. It's in mourning.
Sure. In the
Show me
Talmud,
that. In New York,
sure
where men decide to
in the
do that to
Talmud,
women.
in the Talmud, which is the rabbis discussing
I know
how.
what the Talmud is. I
Okay,
read the Talmud. I'm
all right.
messianic. I'm
They
aware of the
they
Talmud.
all right. So then you will understand that even they understand that this was taken so that when soldiers raped women in war, they could take them home with them.
Okay, no, that's not what it's saying. I'm
All right.
asking you to give me, it doesn't say, so when you R word her in war, you can now take her home. That's not what it's
Yes.
saying.
Yes.
No, it's not. So when
In
you
the
R
Talmud,
word
they will
her,
say that that
because
is
she
how
is
it was
for,
taken.
according to Torah, she is forbidden to him. So no, you wouldn't, and if he does, there are stipulations for him as an Israelite man. You just don't get to go around R-wording people and that be okay. These women are literally, according
I
to the
didn't
Torah,
say that.
forbidden to. That is what you're saying.
We're talking very specifically in war. Again, these women were seen as property. They weren't seen as humans, which is why they could be taken, which is why their consent could be violated, which is why, even again, the
So do wait.
rabbis
Let me just
admit
back
that
up.
this
You're
is
trying to take
about the
over the time
historical
here. So do
taking
you agree
of
that it's a
men
morning? Yes or
raping
no?
women in war and
Do
then
you
being
agree
able to
that it's
take
a
them home
morning?
with
Why are
them.
you scared to admit that?
That was literally one of the things I've listed. I'm not afraid to admit it. You are afraid to acknowledge all the other points.
Okay. No, I'm not afraid to acknowledge I'm going down the line. So you do admit that whom you think these men are R-wording women, they give them 30 days to mourn for their family in particular.
And why else was the 30 days also needed?
No, I'm asking you. Why would a man that desires to R-word the plunder just I'm just going to give you I'm going to give you time, 30 days to mourn for the fact that we just annihilated
Am I
your
supposed
group
to
of
be moved by that? Is that
I'm
supposed to
do
mean
you
something?
know are there modern
30
day wait,
days?
excuse me.
Do you
Are
think
there
30 days is
modern
enough to
excuse
mourn the
me.
family that was just slain in front of you?
Yeah, excuse me.
Oh
Are
yeah,
there
you do. You
excuse
think you
me.
could be over
Hold
your
on.
parents' death in 30 days?
Excuse me. I'm still talking. Are there modern men that before they R word you, they give you 30 days?
I don't know what this has to do with modern stuff. Again, why are you running away from what we're talking
Because you
about?
keep, I'm not running, I'm standing
Okay,
here
then
10 toes
address the
down.
Bible. We're talking about the Bible.
I
Stop
am
bringing up modern
addressing it.
stuff.
It's
Cool.
literally
Great.
speaking that she,
So,
and you keep cutting
okay.
me off because you know specifically that she is to very specifically, it is addressed
Mhm.
for her family. This sounds like a wicked people. Oh, you wicked
Yes,
Israelites. I can't
yes,
believe you'd
it does sound like
let
a
this
wicked people.
woman, oh, I can't believe you'd let her mourn for her family for 30 days. Why couldn't you just taken her that night and ravished her?
Why would they have
Come on,
to? Why
sir.
would they have to take her at all?
Okay, she is free to unalive in the wilderness without her father, without her brother, without her
They should
husband, without
provide for the
anybody
victims of
there.
war.
That is how they do that. They
No,
provide for them.
no,
You
you
do
can't.
not
You can't
have to.
say
It
that
says
taking
may.
someone
You
as your
do
victim
not
means that
have
that's you
to
taking
take
care of
her
them.
as a wife. You do not have to. You can have a like a handmaiden. She can be in your
Oh
house
God,
specifically, and you can take care of her that way. This
why
is
not?
what you're
Why
not
not
getting.
let?
Women, there
Why
was
not
no
let her
welfare
stay in her
program back in the
homeland?
day that women could be on. This is the welfare program, sir.
Okay, why couldn't God have done a better job if we can think of a better job now?
What do you mean done a better job and thinking of a better job when you're in 2025 with a computer and you're talking to a female from across the world? What do you
How
mean?
does that have anything to do with them? Again, you do not address points. Why are you so
I am
afraid to address
addressing
the
points. I
Bible?
just addressed it. In 2025, you're talking about,
No,
oh, we got that. You just
all
call
you
up the
did was
government, yo, and
justify.
like get on welfare, woman.
What are you even
Sir, are
talking
you
about?
tracking the conver I'm
You're bringing
setting the
up things that have
tune.
nothing to do with what we're talking about.
No, I'm starkly contrasting the difference in the ancient world where
Hmm.
there were no roads, where there were no buildings, where there was no water
Okay.
flowing from the tap. There's none of that. And
Hmm.
without the men to build it, the women had to pick up the slack. So either she unalives in the wilderness, because I don't know if you've checked lately, but the Middle East is not Tennessee with lush
Okay.
rivers and gardens. Okay. So she would unalive out there, now being decimated, her people's gone, or she would pack up and go with them.
Okay. None of this addresses what my point is. None of this addresses how men are over women and men
Why
can
is it
choose
that
to
you're not
take women.
answering it? You keep saying, "Oh,
Because I'm trying to
do
stay
you
on topic.
acknowledge that she could just do you can
I'm
she
trying to
just
stay
say,
on
"No,
topic,
I
and
don't want to go. I want to unalive."
I'm sorry. Where is that option? Because all I see in the text is that if he likes her,
It
he can
says
take her.
may. Wait. Did remember the word may? You may take them. The implication is they don't
May
have
does
to.
not mean that
Yes,
she can choose to stay or choose to flee or choose to do anything else. It says that
sir.
if you
What does
want to take them, you can take them.
correct? And
So
if
again,
she, do you
it's
think that,
on
okay,
what
let's say,
it's on what they
okay,
want, not what
stop
do you
and
know what
listen.
consent is? Is consent one person or
No,
two
no,
people?
oh my gosh, I have no idea what consent is. I'm almost
Okay,
37
well
years
let
old
me
and I don't
teach
know what
you.
consent,
Let me teach you.
sir,
You wouldn't be the
Try
please,
first
to
let
person
me,
try to
that doesn't know it.
stop real quick. Stop. So let's try to let each other talk. and not interrupt if we can. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Let
So
me teach you consent.
I'll give you an ancient example of what happens when a woman goes with a man and she does not want to go. So Muhammad
Oh my
decimated
God.
a Jew. Oh my God, what? What are you saying? Oh my God, about?
It's not addressing the point, but go ahead.
No, it is. It absolutely is. Okay. Do you know how Muhammad unalived a
Yes.
Jewish woman?
And this proves your point how?
It proves the point by this, because if a man had just decimated, like Muhammad did, her tribe, right? And he takes two, it's not deflection, honey, lock in. Lock in. I need you to lock in, B. Okay. And he takes her and she doesn't want to go. Guess what? She's just going to poison him, which is exactly what happened to Muhammad. So, do you think the Israelite men are that silly that they would take into their house a woman while they are sleeping who could do a tent peg through their head, who could poison their food, who could do numerous things to them? If that woman is kicking and screaming and saying, I do not want to go with me,
Yes.
unalive me here. Okay, wonderful.
History
I'm
is
glad.
filled with examples of women being taken by force. What are you talking
Wonderful.
about?
We are specifically addressing the Bible, where I'm giving you the word may
Oh,
and you're
but you brought up
ignoring it in
Mohammed.
light of the fact, yeah, I brought up Muhammad to show that a Jewish woman, instead of her going with her captors and being, you know what, she says, I'm just gonna unalive him. Oh, wow, amazing. Still within its Jewish
So
context.
this is what Jewish women do? Is this what you're saying that Jewish women do?
I'm saying that if you no, well, I don't know what you just tried to do there, like some sort of
Well, I'm
anti-Semitic
confused.
thing.
No, I'm
That seems
confused
real
as to
weird.
your point. It makes no sense what you're talking about as far
The
as what
point
my
is,
point
if
is.
a Jewish man thought, let me help you,
You're the
okay?
one bringing this
If a
weird shit in.
Jewish man thought, I'm going to take this woman and she's going to be a combative wife. I already maybe have a wife or whatever. I'm just going to take a second one and she's going to be a combative wife. She may even unalive me in my sleep. Do you
Hmm.
think that that man is going to take her?
Yes, we see it happen all the
Oh,
time.
okay, so he's willing to unalive himself via by proxy, taking a woman who may unalive him. Dude, you're
These
insane.
men like that think they can control the women. But yes, we see examples all throughout history of women who have off their abusers, and their abusers kept them. They took them. They didn't care that they fought. There are women who are attacked that scratched up. There's a picture of a cop who assaulted this woman, and his mugshot, he is covered head to toe in these scratches. Men, if they want to rape you, will not care if you're fighting. They will not care, and there are so
Yeah, but
many
notice that
examples.
he gives her 30 days.
So
Again,
what?
notice
So
you just
what?
proved my point.
30
The
days
men
does
that
nothing for your
actually have
point.
a grotesque mind and want to take a woman right then and there, don't give a woman 30 days to mourn for her family, sir.
30, yeah,
Cook.
30 days doesn't mean anything for your point. Do you think 30 days is enough to mourn you unaliving her family? You
The
really think?
point is
Do,
mourning.
do
People
you think
aren't
that
in
you can?
active mourning. People don't sit in sackcloth and ashes, etc., and look, like they're in active mourning for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks on end. Maybe in the modern society where you can, just call up, like a food delivery, or your light comes on because you flick a light on. But in the ancient world, if you weren't moving, you weren't living, i.e., if you weren't fetching water, you didn't drink. If you were not, tending to the animals, they weren't providing food. Why is this difficult, sir? You
So,
keep comparing the,
wait. Just to clarify,
yeah.
are you saying that if someone came into your house and unalived your entire family and neighborhood and took you away with them, it would take you 30 days to get over all that?
No, that's not what I said. Notice what I said.
So you
Like, I
agree
don't think
30
you're
days means
following.
nothing.
No, I didn't say that. I don't think 30 days means nothing. 30 days in the ancient world of mourning. Okay, how long do you think you would survive without working for 30 days in the ancient world?
I don't see how that excuses then turning her into a great victim.
Sir, answer the question, because I answer yours. I need you to be an honest person and answer the question.
Yeah, me, myself, as a man, probably not too long. How does this make your point? Please make it,
Okay,
because I have to go to work
I just
soon and
told
I
you.
would love to hear
Okay,
it.
go to work then, bro. I don't know how many more times I'm unaliving a dead horse here. What do you want me to do? Like I've already explained it. Women also, they were the ones that had to keep the inside of the house going. Let me explain it to you, okay? Man go make animal, make milk, right? Okay, baby born, milk come, he milk animal, okay? I'm gonna break it down real slow. He take milk to her or she does milk, okay? Then that has to get churned. That gets turned into butter. You think that happens overnight? No refrigerator. Remember that. Milk go bad. Okay. Now milk go bad, meat go bad, cheese go bad, everything go bad. Who is tending to the inside of the house? Ah, the woman. If she doesn't tend to the inside of the house for over 30 days, do you think family does well? No, it doesn't. I don't understand why it's impossible for you to put yourself in an ancient world without power, water, and any. Maybe are you in the South? I'm in the South. Okay, a lot of people in the South still live without power. Right? They just choose to. They were raised that way. They got long sleeves on and 89 degrees outside. Okay, it is the way of life that dictates the circumstances.
How
You
does this justify
understand
taking
that.
women?
Okay, I'm not I'm
How
not
does
going
this
to
show the
continue to
consent
state
of these
that
women?
over and over and over. She could unalive in the wilderness.
Okay,
That's
that
her
doesn't mean that
choice.
she consented to being his wife. And that
She could
also doesn't,
unalive
and that's
in the
also not in the
wilderness,
Bible.
or she could go and be provided for by an Israelite man who is required, once he takes her, he is required to keep her. He cannot just do it. He can't, oh, I'm going to do what I want with you, another notch on my belt, and then I'm going to, like, whatever. The one
Not
example
not
of the
if she's
way a
taken in
man
war,
treated
because it says that he can kick her out.
a priest, by the way, in the Hebrew Bible, where he did atrocious things to a woman and sent it off to Israel, all of her pieces to Israel. That was actual hellfire and fury that came down on them for that. So I don't know why you seem to think that when putting yourself in an ancient world, it is just like it is today with our modern conveniences. It's
I never said
not.
that. I never said that. Again, you respond to things I didn't say. But thank you, host, for your time. I wish I could say that it was fruitful, but my only point is simply this: is that if we're going to go with what the Bible says, and let's be honest with what the Bible says, when it comes to your captives of war, men can just take women. They don't need to value her consent or care about it. And when they're done with her, if they're not satisfied, they can kick her out. It says nothing about them having to keep her forever. Courtney is just adding the stuff about them being able to have the chance to flee. Having a choice between two terrible options that you don't want to do does not mean that you consented to one of them just because one of them happened, especially when the text and context show that it was decided for you. So again, thank you for your time. No degree. If you want to have that debate, sure, I guess if you want, but I'm not. I don't want to add any modern feminism to it. We're gonna stick to just what the Bible said. And Courtney,
Yeah. So,
I hope that you start learning what the Bible actually says as well.
yeah,
So,
I do know what the Bible said. You didn't actually address any
well,
of the points. So,
then I don't know
well,
why you
go.
brought
You're
stuff
done.
up.
Now it's
But
my
You
turn.
thank you,
said you
Okay.
everyone.
said you did have to go. I'm going to let Courtney respond, wrap up, and you did have to go. I'm going to let Courtney respond, wrap up, and then there's someone else who wants to come in the chat as well. I didn't add too many people in the chat because it
Hey,
gets crazy, I think. But
Okay.
I can add some people now. But go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, specifically if you're not pleased with her, it's not like, oh, well, I liked you at first and I don't like you now. I'm gonna just R word you and then be done with you. It's specific to, like, again, this is why I brought up the example with Muhammad. An Israel who is hell bent on unaliving him. No man, literally, no man in his right mind, there are men out there that do silly things, but no man in his right mind is actually going to say, yeah, I'll live with a woman who every night is going to attempt to unalive me, whom every night I have to worry about eating her food. So in that way, sure, if he's not pleased and she wants to go, guess what? She may go, right? But he cannot just, do with her what he wants, i.e., wretched and sick things that you can't say on the app.
Where does it say any